Serial is the second segment of the second episode of the 20th season of Arthur, and this one was quite interesting for two reasons. The first is that there is a genuine mystery element that I thought I knew what had happened and I was wrong, so I don't mind being wrong if it keeps me guessing until the end. And it's also just interesting to see Buster with this new passion. Buster discovers podcasts because his mother is listening to a podcast about mysteries, and he decides he wants to start his own podcast, but he doesn't really know what to do it about. And then DW's box of cereal from the variety pack goes missing and she blames Arthur. So she enlists Buster's help to create this podcast about this mysteriously disappeared box of cereal and help her to unravel the case and find out what exactly happened. And Buster has an important lesson to learn, which I'll discuss with a spoiler warning, because, well, I have to discuss what happens at the end, but there's definitely an important message about buying into mysteries and maybe believing the hype, which I think a lot of kind of mystery-based shows and podcasts can do, but at the same time they're usually pretty brilliant and really engaging, and if this encourages anybody to check out a podcast or take an interest in that, I think that's a really good thing. Because that's, I think, a really great way to spend time. It can be educational, informative, relaxing, entertaining. I say all this, I don't listen to podcasts. I have tried to listen to podcasts, but I find them too distracting when I'm writing or editing, and if I'm doing something else, I'd rather be watching if I have the brain space to actually pay attention to a podcast, I'd rather use that brain space to pay attention to a film instead. And when I'm out walking, I prefer to listen to music or nothing at all. But this is completely irrelevant to my enjoyment of it. Basically, I don't listen to podcasts, but I know their value, and even though I don't listen to them, I did enjoy this episode. It's got a decent structure to it, there is a mystery element, and as I said, I was incorrect. So it kept me guessing until the end, and it's always great to see Buster having a passion or being enthusiastic about something. So that I loved as well. So, a spoiler from now, I'm going to discuss the lesson that Buster had to learn. And by doing so, I'm going to have to mention what the outcome was. Well, I still won't say what exactly happened with the cereal, but I will say that it wasn't Arthur. Buster had been so certain in his podcast that it was Arthur, and he had to admit that he kind of wanted it to be Arthur because it made the podcast more fascinating and exciting, and he wanted to crack the case and give this big reveal and make his listeners have that sense of satisfaction. But he ultimately had to admit that he became so wrapped up in the story that it became less about telling the truth and more about creating this gripping mystery. Which I think is really important because often we become invested in mysteries or conspiracy theories, or if there's been a murder or some other kind of tragic event and there's a culprit, and you become so obsessed that it's that one culprit that it's hard to see that it's somebody else, and you become so fixated on proving that person's guilt, or hoping that they're proven guilty, that you kind of forget that actually there could be other people, and you forget the truth and rather just focus on what you want to be the truth, which Buster has to learn with this. And sometimes, the truth isn't as interesting or isn't as gripping, but I'd say when it comes to mysteries, generally the truth is more important. But I think the message was delivered very clearly. Buster learned it eventually. And I had fun watching it, especially as I thought I had worked it out, but I was incorrect. Which just meant that the episode was surprising towards the end. I liked it, definitely a pretty decent episode.